Ladies and gentlemen, foes and fans, friends and fudders, welcome once again to MemeMania and the 36 Chambers of Tech. I am your reluctant and shy host, Shytoshi Kusama, and it's Saturday. So it's time for us to have a spiritual conversation, which I will do every Saturday of this podcast so that we can all align and understand the bigger picture here. So I was just having a conversation with our engineer who's kind of like, who are you, bro? And what is it that you're doing? Because he gets a little peek behind the scenes here. And we started talking about spirituality and what exactly it means. He's from a very spiritual place, and there are many very spiritual places in the world where people are trying to better themselves and be the best they can. But I am not from one of those places. I actually grew up in one of the worst places in the world, a very sad and, demoralizing place. And for many years of my life when I was very young, I had to ask myself questions that stuck with me, like, why are things the way they are? How come everyone doesn't have, free water or just, food or things like that? These are questions that I struggled with for many years. And because of that, I am a better person. I was able to really dig into spirituality. And today, I'd like to take some time to talk about some of these things. Now, look, if you're not a spiritual person at all and you're an atheist, let's start there, right? If you're an atheist and you're like, oh God, I don't want to hear this. Bro, don't worry. I'm smart enough to know that your viewpoint of what other people call God, you might say the universe, or just the nothingness of existence, still falls into the same realm. One of the things that I have studied over many years is this idea of a higher power or some sort of structure of science that has created the world. And although I don't agree with you, Mr. Atheist or Mrs. Atheist, I do know that even if you are not able to name the higher power or you attribute it just to science or math, you still know that there is something that has created this system. Usually those who have decided to side with the opposing force, as I like to call it, have deemed these places as either ether or the arcana or things like that. And through my studies, we found that, of course, it's the same, especially if you start studying the most quote unquote spiritual people who the forces against good follow. And I'm talking about those like Madame Blavatsky, Albert Pike, and people like that. Even their wise advocates follow this same doctrine of godliness, although it is very well and very often veiled. It's funny, there's a funny story that says that the Masons kind of laugh at all the atheists because they say at least all the other religions believe in God, and the atheists kind of miss that point. I don't laugh. I think that what is missing is the knowledge and the proof that exists currently in the world. And I'm blessed enough to have been able to see some of this incredible proof. One of the things that I've done, and now I'll switch to a different religion, not the one that really doesn't have God involved, is that I was able to go to the Mountain of Moses, and there I've seen the evidence that God in many forms exists, and that he's here to, or she, I think you would say both is more correct. Elohim is here to bless us and to keep us happy, if only we choose to. And the problem stems from, in my humble opinion, that we give this power away to other people. Too often we pay attention to the media, and the media has the tools to convince your subconscious things that aren't always, and more often than not, are not whatsoever true. Things that belittle us as humans, that belittle certain groups of people that are human, and overall makes humanity hate each other for no reason, because in my very humble opinion, based on the studies that I have done, most, if not all, of the religions are aligned on some of the same tasks. So let's talk about that. It doesn't matter if you are Jew or Gentile, as some say, Muslim, as I would consider myself to be, although I am a Sephardic Jew as well, just a little bit about myself, or if you're Hindu or Buddhist. I think everyone agrees that what we all want is a fair, good world. As I've traveled the world as shy, even when people don't know that I'm shy, I've found that in most places, people are actually kind. They really want the same thing. They want their children to be taken care of. They want the basic necessities, food, water. They want opportunity to build what they dream, and they want to live in peace. And it's quite unfortunate that the powers that be have not figured out that this is the goal, or they know it, and trust me, they do, and they decide to go against it. There's a lot of money to be made in war, in suffering, and it's quite sad that that is the case. But the beauty of quote unquote crypto and blockchain is that there's a lot more money to be made in peace. Through the tools that we have built, we wish to empower this new world that leans towards peace and goodness for everyone. And it has been my mission, some would argue my mission my entire life, to herald this new age. But of course, I can't do it before it's time. I was also talking to another friend of mine a few minutes ago, and I was discussing the idea of the stars. And one of the beauties of the stars, in my humble opinion, once again, is that it's one thing that cannot be altered by media and the powers that be. You cannot change the course of the stars as much as you want to. You can't change where the sun sits. You can't change where the moon rises. And you definitely can't change where the stars rotate above us. Instead, you can only look and see the signs. Of course, that's in Genesis. Now, those who are wise have seen the signs and know that times have changed. But I politely and gently warn you as a listener not to fall into the traps that have been set, because when you think about it, if you are a powerful entity and you know that your time is drawing near to an end, you would put in new figures to convince people to follow and fall off a cliff, just like lemmings, instead of convincing them that the truth is what it is and allowing humanity to flourish, even though it would look like that is what they're doing. So, all that being said, and drawing near to the end of this particular episode, I implore that you do a few things. I get this question a lot, actually, when I go into Telegram and Discord. I'm like, what do you think? What should we do? How did you do it? And throughout this podcast, I'll share some of the secrets of what made me successful, how I was able to retrain my subconscious. And I'll tell you the first thing I suggest. Do your best to turn off your television. Now, not fully. I understand that television is a part of your daily life. But if you are spending more than 4 hours watching television a day, if you are just mindlessly enjoying what someone else is telling you, then you are being programmed. And that is why it is called programming, as you can easily see. Now, what are you being programmed to think is going to be up to what you let into your body. And parents, be careful as it pertains to the things that you give your children for kid programming. What is needed and what will happen is this shift in your mind when you're able to turn down that and turn up what you tell your subconscious. There are some great books about this. One I suggest often is The Secret Science Behind Miracles by Max Freedom Long, which describes how the kahuna, which I find interesting, very close to the word Cohen. And by the way, if you read the book, you'll see why I said that. There is a correlation there. And how they utilize the subconscious to do what would seem to be miracles, like walk on fire and things like that. So if you aren't programming your subconscious, someone else is. Keep this in mind as you move forward. SHIB Army, I love you, and I'll talk to you soon.